Lisa Bonet as Denise Huxtable. With her signature braided hair and free-spirited fashion, Denise was more than just a character. She was the soul, the rebellious heartbeat of a young generation at Hillman College. Lisa Bonet infused the role with a raw, untamed beauty and a dreamer's artistic spirit, turning Denise into a powerful symbol of independence and self-confidence for Black women of that era. Radiant and full of life, Denise Huxtable lit up living rooms across America, promising a brilliant future for a gifted young woman seemingly destined for greatness. Yet behind that innocent smile, Lisa Bonet's real life unfolded as a painful clash between suffocating fame and Hollywood's merciless rejection. Tragedy began to take shape when she dared to break free from the good girl image in pursuit of authentic artistic expression, only to face public punishment from her own mentor, Bill Cosby. In 1987, after her bold performance in Angel Heart, she was forced out of the main cast of A Different World, a devastating blow that crushed her momentum at just 20 years old. Even more cruelly, when she became pregnant with her first child in 1988, Lisa was met not with celebration, but with brutal judgment from the public and deep-rooted prejudice within the film industry, turning what should have been a sacred journey into motherhood into a nightmare of isolation. The true nightmare arrived when the spotlight finally dimmed, leaving Lisa Bonet alone in the shadows of obscurity and repeated heartbreak. Throughout the 1990s, a woman once adored by millions endured the bitter reality of being quietly blacklisted by Hollywood, struggling with financial hardship as her fame steadily faded. The emotional peak of her suffering came through the collapse of the relationships she had trusted most, from her painful divorce from Lenny Kravitz in 1993 to her late separation from Jason Momoa in early 2024. Inside a once vibrant mansion now filled with silence, the luminous Denise Huxtable was gone, replaced by a somber woman whose eyes carried wounds that never truly healed. It is heartbreaking to look back and realize that while millions still cherish the memory of a vibrant, joyful young woman on screen, Lisa's own flame dimmed in solitude, battling psychological scars and the cold indifference of Hollywood. And yet, despite the damage inflicted upon both body and soul, the image of Denise Huxtable, free-spirited and unbound, remains an inseparable part of the show's legacy. Lisa Bonet lived a quiet life amid shattered glory, leaving behind a powerful lesson about the courage it takes to protect one's true self in the face of relentless adversity. Jasmine Guy as Whitley Gilbert. In the world of A Different World, Jasmine Guy created a cultural monument in the form of Whitley Gilbert, a Southern belle whose elongated, elegant drawl and unmistakable air of aristocratic pride set her apart from any television character before or since. With her refined beauty and commanding presence, Whitley was not only the soul of Hillman College, but also a radiant symbol of Black women's aspirations in the 1980s. Jasmine infused the character with a delicate balance of sharp humor and emotional vulnerability, transforming Whitley into the definitive television princess for millions of viewers.
Cleopatra?
Okay, baby, be quiet. This is Professor Wayne's class now.
And what are you teaching me today?
Everything.
Yet behind her meteoric rise to fame lay a life torn apart by painful contradictions, between long-delayed happiness and the merciless cruelty of fate. Ironically, Jasmine's tragedy began with the very role that made her a star. Whitley Gilbert became both her crown and her curse, as Hollywood quietly shut its doors, deeming her too iconic to be cast as anyone else.
Talk to me, Daddy. Rock my world. Let me call your name. Denzel!
Opportunity after opportunity slipped away, leaving her to watch her career stall amid the industry's cold indifference. Her personal life offered little refuge. In 1998, she married Terrence Duquette in what seemed like a long-awaited safe harbor, only for the marriage to unravel in a highly publicized divorce a decade later. Left to raise her child alone as her fame faded, Jasmine sank into a life defined by isolation and relentless financial pressure. During those years, she endured constant physical and emotional strain, layering heavy makeup over a hollowed, exhausted face, all to preserve the illusion of a star who had not yet fallen. Even so, reality would soon strip away her last remaining hopes. In 2012, Jasmine Guy reached her darkest chapter when she filed for bankruptcy, burdened by more than $123,000 in unpaid taxes and overdue loans. From the heights of stardom, she plunged into financial ruin, struggling to meet even her most basic needs. But the deepest betrayal came from within. Jasmine was diagnosed with lupus, an insidious autoimmune disease that quietly attacks the body's immune system. In the final days of that crisis, she appeared frail and emaciated, her breathing labored, her joints racked with relentless pain from repeated flare-ups. The cruelty of it all was heartbreaking. While audiences continued to smile at Whitley Gilbert's radiant laughter on screen, the woman behind the character was fighting daily at the edge of poverty and physical agony. That brilliant flame was nearly extinguished by the twin sentences of failing health and financial collapse. Yet despite a life scarred by hardship, Jasmine Guy's devotion to her art remains an enduring legacy. Though her body bears the wounds of countless storms, the image of Whitley Gilbert, with her gracious smile and timeless warmth, remains etched into the soul of American television. Jasmine lived a life brief in triumph, but unbearably long in suffering, leaving behind a powerful lesson in resilience, dignity, and the quiet strength required to endure when the spotlight fades. Many people call Whitley Gilbert a gift, but for Jasmine Guy, that iconic success may have become a prison that shaped and limited her career for the rest of her life. Some even argue that without that role, she could have gone much farther in Hollywood, rather than ending up battling bankruptcy and illness. So what do you think? Was this career-defining role a well-earned glory or a tragedy with too high a price? Comment 1 if you see it as a triumph. Comment 0 if you believe it became a curse. Darryl M. Bell as Ron Johnson. Whenever audiences recall the vibrant world of Hillman College, Ron Johnson instantly comes to mind, the slick, quick-witted schemer whose charm was impossible to resist. Darryl M. Bell brought the character to life with infectious energy, turning Ron into the show's indispensable comic spark, the kind of friend every student would want by their side. With effortless charisma, he created a character bursting with personality, helping a different world secure its place as a defining cultural icon of the late 1980s.
Never truly could be. Why not? Because it takes 6 women to handle a manly man like me.
Yet behind that polished on-screen image, few realized that Darryl's real life was overshadowed by immense pressure cast by his family legacy. Born into privilege as the son of Travers J. Bell, Jr., the legendary founder of the first black investment firm listed on the New York Stock Exchange, Darryl carried crushing expectations of success. The sudden death of his father in 1988 thrust him into a complex legal and financial battle over the family estate, stripping away his strongest support just as his career was reaching its peak. Even more painfully, the fame of Ron Johnson itself became an invisible barrier. Hollywood began to turn away, refusing to offer him more challenging roles. The talented actor found his career frozen in place, left waiting endlessly for a phone call that never came amid the industry's ruthless indifference. The harsh reality became most evident as Darryl confronted public forgetfulness and quiet fractures in his personal life. For decades alongside his partner, Tempest Bledsoe, he endured cruel scrutiny from the public over their lack of a formal marriage, judgment that left lasting emotional scars. The blow to his dignity peaked in 2009 when he agreed to appear on the reality series House Husbands of Hollywood. There, the image of a once-celebrated star was laid bare, portrayed as unemployed and financially dependent on his partner, becoming easy prey for media sensationalism. As close colleagues like Mary Alice passed away in 2022, and figures such as Bill Cosby fell into disgrace, Darryl entered his later years wrapped in solitude and reflection. The contrast is deeply moving. The suave, confident Ron Johnson on screen, and the present-day Darryl M. Bell, a man in his 60s grappling with financial strain and the quiet ache of a golden era buried beneath the dust of time. Though his journey has been marked by relentless trials, Darryl M. Bell's contribution to the arts remains unforgettable. Hardship may dull the spotlight, but Ron Johnson's smile lives on vividly in the hearts of devoted fans, a testament to genuine talent. Darryl weathered life's storms with quiet resilience, leaving behind a powerful lesson about endurance in the face of fame's unforgiving cruelty. Sinbad as Walter Oakes. Walter Oakes lives on in the minds of viewers as a symbol of trust, a passionate, humorous mentor within the dormitories of Hillman College. Through an energetic and magnetic performance, Sinbad transformed a strict coach into a big-hearted friend, a spiritual guardian who guided and protected young souls finding their way in the world. Tall, warm, and always wearing a booming smile, Walter Oakes, delivering wisdom wrapped in laughter, became etched into collective memory as one of the most beloved figures in a different world. Behind that radiant optimism on screen, however, the real life of David Adkins, better known as Sinbad, was marked by deep scars shaped by rigid discipline and family fracture. His years serving in the United States Air Force forged resilience through harsh structure, yet also left lingering trauma from repeated punishment for his unconventional personality. Personal pain deepened when the crushing demands of fame and an unforgiving performance schedule eroded his marriage to Meredith Fuller in 1992. A decade of divorce followed, years defined by belated regret and isolation, as Sinbad struggled to rediscover himself just as his career began to lose momentum. The gifted entertainer learned to mask inner emptiness behind roaring laughter on stage, fighting a prolonged psychological battle to rebuild trust with his wife and children amid emotional exhaustion. The most brutal turning point arrived when financial mismanagement plunged him into ruin, culminating in 2 bankruptcy filings in 2009 and 2013 and a staggering tax debt of nearly $11 million. Yet the loss of wealth and career paled in comparison to the physical catastrophe that struck in October 2020. A severe ischemic stroke reduced the once vibrant, fast-talking comedian to a bedridden patient, fighting for his life through tubes and ventilators. Days of coma following surgery for brain swelling robbed him of speech and mobility, transforming a legendary performer into a fragile figure confined to a hospital bed. The powerful coach Walter Oakes now gave way to the Sinbad of today, a man in his later years relearning how to walk and speak, enduring unimaginable pain, while his family was forced to seek public donations to cover overwhelming medical expenses amid relentless financial strain. Sinbad's battle for survival continues, arduous and uncertain, yet the optimism and laughter he gave the world remain an enduring legacy. Life's merciless trials may erode the body, but the memory of the warm, guiding presence of Walter Oakes endures as a treasured part of television history. Sinbad lived a life of devotion to joy, teaching us that laughter itself can be a form of courage. Even in the darkest hours, fate can deliver. Kadeem Hardison as Dwayne Wayne. When speaking of the soul of Hillman College, no one can forget the brilliant nerd Dwayne Wayne and his iconic flip-up glasses, an image forever etched into television history.
Well, what do you say we get out of here and go dig for truffles?
Kadeem Hardison transformed what was once a supporting role into the very center of attention, creating a symbol of intelligence, sincerity, and quiet dignity for a generation of young black men. With a natural performance touched by playful wit, he gave life to a magnetic Dwayne whose every step and every line inspired millions of students across America. Yet behind the thunderous applause on set, Kadeem Hardison's real life unfolded like a sorrowful melody, haunted by painful low notes suspended between the illusion of fame and a harsh reality. The overwhelming success of Dwayne Wayne became an invisible glass cage that confined his talent for decades. Hollywood, ever unforgiving, branded Kadeem as a one-note actor, turning its back and denying him access to major film opportunities. That pain deepened when his profound romance with co-star Cree Summer quietly collapsed right on set. Kadeem swallowed the heartbreak, masking the sorrow in his eyes with professionalism, continuing to perform romantic scenes while his heart quietly bled from the separation. True despair set in when his marriage to singer Chanté Moore officially ended in 2000, leaving a hollow silence within the artist's soul. Losing his family anchor just as his career slipped into a frightening lull, Kadeem was forced to confront a brutal truth. The phone stopped ringing while unpaid bills steadily piled up. For many years afterward, the man once pursued by the industry had to accept obscure supporting roles or anonymous voice work simply to survive. The pain reached its peak when he watched close colleagues, including Mary Alice, pass away in 2022, leaving him alone amid fragments of fading memories. The contrast is heartbreaking. A confident Dwayne Wayne surrounded by friends on screen and an aging Kadeem Hardison standing alone, grappling with anxiety and Hollywood's cruel erasure. Kadeem Hardison's journey is marked by shadows, yet the imprint he left on popular culture remains an enduring legacy. Though relentless hardships may have worn down his body, the spirit of Dwayne Wayne lives on as a cherished memory for generations of viewers. He lived a life of quiet dedication, teaching us the meaning of resilience in the face of time, fame, and their unforgiving passage. Dawnn Lewis as Jaleesa Vinson-Taylor. Amid the youthful energy of Hillman College, Dawnn Lewis emerged as a symbol of maturity and intellect through her role as Jaleesa Vinson-Taylor. With her composed presence and resonant, commanding voice, Jaleesa embodied perseverance, rising above social barriers to assert her own worth. Dawnn's excellence not only in acting, but also in composing the show's iconic theme song, elevated her into one of the most influential figures of the late 1980s, earning deep respect and admiration from audiences and critics alike. Yet behind that steely exterior lay a life marked by dark chapters and psychological wounds that traced back to her earliest years. Memories of an abusive father cast a long shadow over Dawnn's mind, turning her childhood into an extended season of fear and emotional instability. Fate showed little mercy as she entered marriage with Johnny G. McCall in 2004. What should have been a safe haven instead became a cycle of brutal physical and emotional abuse inflicted by the man she trusted most. For years, Dawnn concealed bruises beneath layers of makeup, forcing a strained smile before the camera, while her spirit quietly shattered under relentless cruelty. Her trials deepened when the very industry to which she had devoted her youth turned its back on her. After 5 seasons of pivotal contributions to A Different World, Dawnn was abruptly written out of the series in 1992, without a clear explanation or dignified closure. This betrayal plunged her career into a frightening silence and sparked exhausting legal battles to reclaim her rightful ownership of the legendary theme song. In later years, the artist found herself battling post-traumatic stress disorder, haunted by recurring nightmares of abuse that followed her into the solitude of her Los Angeles home. In stark contrast to the strong, protective Jaleesa seen on screen, Dawnn's real life revealed a vulnerable woman left to tend deep psychological scars after decades of exploitation and mistreatment by those she once trusted. Though Dawnn Lewis's story is still unfolding, the hardships she has endured have forged an extraordinary resilience. Her contributions to music and television remain a priceless legacy, one that continues to inspire women fighting to reclaim their voices and their dignity. She has lived a life shaped by pain and perseverance, yet never abandoned her devotion to her craft, leaving us with a powerful lesson in renewal, survival, and the strength to rise from ashes. Mary Alice as Leticia Lettie Bostic. When audiences think of the shared home of Hillman College, they often find a sense of absolute comfort in the presence of Mother Lettie Bostic, the woman who kept the fire burning with a generous heart and a quietly perceptive gaze. Mary Alice portrayed the role with calm authority, transforming Lettie into a steadfast emotional anchor for students just beginning to navigate adult life. Through her subtle and restrained performance, she embodied the essence of a gentle mother figure, a safe harbor amid the turbulence of youth, making Lettie Bostic the very standard of warmth on late 1980s television. In stark contrast to the fulfillment she projected on screen, Mary Alice's real life was defined by decades of struggle shaped by hardship from her earliest days in Mississippi. Born in 1936 into the shadow of racial segregation, she labored tirelessly through physically and emotionally demanding jobs, from teaching to social work, simply to sustain her burning passion for the arts. The cruel irony emerged when recognition finally arrived too late, forcing this gifted woman to confront invisible barriers of age and race within Hollywood. Mary Alice endured the quiet frustration of being confined to exhausting supporting roles, masking her constant financial worries with resilience during long years of anonymity. The harshest sentence came in her later years, when loneliness enveloped her entire world. Mary Alice chose a life of seclusion, without a family, without children, turning her New York apartment into an eerily silent island of solitude. Time and illness slowly eroded her strength, stripping away her ability to stand beneath the stage lights she so deeply revered. On July 27, 2022, the Emmy Award-winning actress drew her final breath in the absolute stillness of her home. She passed away alone, with no loved ones at her side, no final words echoing beyond those walls. The contrast is heartbreaking. A mother Lettie, forever surrounded by love and laughter on screen, and a Mary Alice in real life whose journey ended in piercing silence, far removed from the vibrant world she devoted her entire life to serving. Mary Alice has departed from this world, yet her devotion to the craft remains an enduring legacy among those who cherish the art of performance. Though her body has returned to dust, the spirit of Leticia Bostic lives on as a treasured memory, teaching us the quiet power of patience, endurance, and selfless sacrifice. She lived a life of profound restraint, yet radiant impact, leaving behind performances of remarkable depth that continue to guide and inspire generations to come. Glynn Turman as Bradford Taylor. Audiences of a different world often found discipline and moral clarity embodied in Colonel Bradford Taylor, the stern yet deeply responsible authority figure at Hillman College. Glynn Turman portrayed the character with composed gravitas, transforming Bradford into a steady pillar of guidance, a spiritual father who helped young black students navigate barriers and claim their rightful place in the world. Yet, beneath the Colonel's dignified presence on screen, few could sense the shadows Glynn Turman carried from a childhood shaped by violence in the heart of Harlem. Growing up amid poverty and racial prejudice left lingering emotional wounds, forcing him to turn to art as a shield for a fragile inner world. Personal sorrow deepened when his marriage to the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, formally ended in 1984 after 6 years together. The divorce did not merely cost him a partner, it placed him under a harsh public microscope, subjecting him to whispers and cruel judgment for years to follow. This gifted artist was compelled to suppress his heartbreak, maintaining a calm exterior before the camera while privately bleeding from separation and the invisible weight of his former wife's towering fame. The most devastating sentence of his life was handed down on a fateful day in 1986, shattering any hope of a complete future. His son, Glynn Turman Jr., was brutally killed during an altercation at Santa Monica Beach at just 21 years old. Being forced to lay to rest a child at the height of youth delivered a blow so severe that it nearly broke him. The years that followed became a long descent into freezing silence as he battled the agony of loss while simultaneously confronting Hollywood's indifference. Producers repeatedly overlooking his talent due to the persistent barrier of race. The sorrow reached a quiet peak when close colleagues such as Mary Alice passed away in 2022, leaving him feeling like a solitary traveler among fragments of memory. The contrast is devastating. A commanding Colonel Taylor who always had answers on screen, and a real-life Glynn Turman who has spent nearly 4 decades alone, tending an unhealed wound of grief, enduring fate's cruelty beneath Hollywood's glittering surface. Glynn Turman continues to work, but the trials he has endured have forged a figure of profound resilience and empathy. Though his spirit bears deep scars, the legacy of Colonel Bradford Taylor remains an immortal part of the series' soul, teaching us the power of renewal after unimaginable loss. He has lived a life of devotion, transforming unbearable pain into something enduring and meaningful through the art of performance. Charnele Brown as Kimberly Reese. Leaving a lasting imprint on the public consciousness, Charnele Brown shaped Kimberly Reese into a portrait of resilience, a determined medical student who worked twice as hard to reach her dream of becoming a doctor. Through a performance rich with nuance, Charnele brought forth a Kimberly who was not only intellectually gifted, but also grounded in discipline and self-respect, becoming a quiet role model for young women everywhere. The character's sharp intellect and burning ambition made her an indispensable presence, anchoring the emotional strength and longevity of the entire series. Yet behind the impressive on-screen legacy, Charnele Brown's real life was shadowed by injustice and rigid prejudice within Hollywood. A formidable stage actress who once shone on Broadway, she endured the quiet humiliation of being confined to light comedic roles, leaving little room to display the depth of her true craft. In the 1990s, Hollywood boxed her into narrow stereotypes, repeatedly excluding her from major dramatic projects simply because she did not fit the era's rigid standards of appearance. Every attempt to break through to A-list status was met with indifference from producers, forcing this gifted woman to suppress her pride and accept small, fragmented jobs just to keep her artistic flame alive amid industry neglect.
Next time you come dressed to fight! Come on. Let's go, Whitley.
Charnele's world truly collapsed when the spotlight faded, leaving her alone in a spiral of financial hardship and ruthless obscurity. After A Different World ended in 1993, her phone fell almost completely silent for years, plunging her into economic instability in the unforgiving cost of life in Los Angeles. Passion projects such as Charnele Brown Entertainment gradually dissolved due to lack of funding, turning years of investment and hope into nothing more than shattered dreams. The pain deepened as she watched close colleagues, such as Mary Alice in 2022, pass away, while others like Sinbad were devastated by illness. In her later years, the artist lives quietly in isolation, battling depression and the aching void left by a vanished golden era. The Charnele Brown of real life now searches for meaning amid fame's betrayal and psychological wounds that have never fully healed. Despite decades marked by hardship, Charnele Brown's imprint remains an essential part of the soul of American television. Her quiet contributions to the arts and her dedication to mentoring younger generations stand as a legacy beyond measure. She lived a life forged by resilience, teaching us the enduring power of dignity even when the world chooses to forget. Cree Summer as Winifred Freddie Brooks. In the memories of those who cherish Hillman College, Freddie Brooks appears like a breath of freedom, restless, introspective, and guided by a nomadic spirit. Cree Summer shaped Freddie into a character unlike any other, defined by her bohemian style and fierce ideals, becoming a humanist voice of rebellion for a generation coming of age in the late 1980s. Her natural charm and unmistakable voice gave Freddie an electric vitality, promising a future that seemed destined to shine beneath the bright lights of Hollywood. Yet behind that boundless energy on screen, Cree Summer's real life was hemmed in by the ruthless elimination practiced by an industry obsessed with appearances. Tragedy began when she was handed the cruel sentence of being a faceless star. Hollywood eagerly consumed her extraordinary voice for hundreds of animated characters, yet mercilessly rejected her physical presence in front of the camera. She was forced to endure the quiet humiliation of being denied substantive on-screen roles simply because her appearance did not conform to rigid, stereotypical expectations imposed on black actresses. That pain deepened in 1999, when her passionate musical dream collapsed. Despite support from the legendary Lenny Kravitz, her album Street Fairy was met with cold indifference from the market, leaving years of investment, hope, and artistic devotion to vanish into an unnerving silence from record labels. Reality grew harsher still as family tragedy and mental health struggles converged, stripping away her last remaining sources of strength. The death of her father, actor Don Franks, in 2016 dealt a devastating blow to Cree's spirit, taking from her the one person who truly understood her sense of otherness. Before that grief could even settle, she found herself battling clinical depression alone, drained by the combined pressures of motherhood and the financial instability that shadows freelance artists. The cruelty peaked as she watched her own legacy threatened by the rise of AI voice technology, forcing her into a humiliating fight for survival in middle age, struggling to maintain a fragile foothold inside shrinking recording studios. The contrast is heartbreaking. Freddie Brooks, proud and fearless on screen, forever fighting for justice, while Cree Summer in real life quietly tends to deep psychological wounds, enduring Hollywood's indifference toward a talent that spent its youth giving everything from the shadows. Though Cree Summer's journey is marked by darkness, her voice and spirit remain an immortal part of popular culture. Her unseen contributions behind animated worlds, along with the enduring image of the free-spirited Freddie Brooks, form a legacy of rare value, one that teaches us the power of holding on to identity in a world defined by constant upheaval. She has lived a quiet yet unyielding life, transforming pain itself into the raw material of art. Jada Pinkett Smith as Lena James. The most radiant period of Hillman College's transformation was also the moment Lena James arrived, bringing with her an intelligent beauty and the quiet confidence of a young woman destined for greatness. Jada Pinkett shaped Lena into a figure of strength, an exceptional student determined to assert the place of black women in society. Through a sharp and commanding performance, she emerged as a symbol of resilience and self-respect, promising a brilliant future beneath the cinematic skies of the early 1990s. Yet beneath Lena's confidence on screen lay a past few could imagine. Jada Pinkett's real life was forged in the shadows of drugs and violence on the streets of Baltimore. Raised by parents struggling with addiction, she began selling drugs while still in high school simply to survive. Those emotional fractures deepened when the one soul who truly understood her, rap icon Tupac Shakur, was brutally murdered in 1996. His death stripped away her greatest emotional anchor, leaving a wound that would never fully heal. Even after entering her high-profile marriage to Will Smith in 1997, Jada found herself trapped beneath suffocating public expectations, spiraling into prolonged clinical depression, and at the height of her fame, facing moments where she contemplated ending her own life. The carefully constructed image of perfection finally collapsed when her autoimmune condition, alopecia, began altering her appearance, culminating in global ridicule at the 2022 Academy Awards. The shocking incident in which Will Smith struck Chris Rock not only exposed her physical vulnerability, but unleashed a wave of relentless global backlash. The humiliation deepened when Jada later revealed that she and her husband had been living separately since 2016, exposing 7 years spent performing the illusion of happiness in profound isolation. Her highly publicized relationship with August Alsina, discussed openly on Red Table Talk, cast her as a public villain, freezing her career and ultimately leading to the cancellation of the show in 2023. The Jada Pinkett Smith of today is a woman in her 50s, forced to shed every glamorous facade while confronting industry rejection and the cumulative psychological scars of a lifetime lived under scrutiny. Jada Pinkett Smith continues her search for self amid waves of controversy, and the trials she has endured stand as a stark lesson in the cruelty of fame. Though her personal identity has been battered by relentless storms, the image of the strong-willed Lena James remains etched in the memories of devoted fans. She has lived a life shaped by hardship, bold enough to expose her darkest truths in pursuit of inner freedom. The luminous chapters of A Different World have now closed forever, yet the presence of its gifted artists continues to live on in our hearts. Today, whether they have passed on or are quietly tending the wounds life has left behind, the legacy they gave us remains an eternal part of our youth. Let us pause for a moment of remembrance to honor the souls who devoted themselves entirely beneath the stage lights. Among all the faces we've revisited, whose story moved you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe as we continue this journey of remembrance for legends who once defined an era.